From the former convent of the Church of the Good Shepherd overlooking the farmers market and the park here in Inwood, New York City, welcome to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, and theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home in what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and today we welcome actor and improviser Matt Higgins. Matt Higgins is an original member of the spontaneous theater troupes Centralia and Burn Manhattan. He performs regularly with Centralia at the People's Improv Theater in New York City. His improvisation bears the indelible influence of past directors Paul Sills, Shira Piven, as well as teachers Ralph Buckley, Paul Lazar, and Josh Broder. Matt is an Andy Kaufman Award finalist, and his stand-up has appeared on Comedy Central. His TV credits include The Jim Gaffigan Show, Late Night, and Law & Order. Films include The Shadow Boxer, a Lee Daniels film. In addition, he's also a founding member of Up Theater Company. Together with Josh Liveright and Victor Verhage, he launched The What If, a short film project about choosing love over hate, fear, and violence. The What If films have played festivals in New York City, Los Angeles, and Tokyo. In early 2019, Matt wrapped production on The Improviser, an improv comedy concert film co-produced and directed by Josh Liveright. We're going to talk about that and so much more, but first, let me welcome you, Matt, to Inwood Artworks On Air. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aaron. I'm really happy and excited to be here with you.
How you been?
I've been great. I've been hanging in, you know.
Yeah.
It's been hasn't been easy, I know, for anyone, and but as things go, I feel pretty fortunate and managed to stay, creative throughout this, crazy time.
You are the epitome of creative, I feel. You've always a positive creativity at that. You always have the wheels turning, and even though maybe society has not let us do everything we creatively yearn to do in the past year or so, but I feel like you're one of those people who have always pushed into the light.
Well, it takes one to know one, Mr. Sims, because I really appreciate that, and I receive that. Thank you very much.
Sure.
And the same can be said for you too.
Well, thanks. If anyone has ever attended one of our pop-up galleries or back porch show or dropped by at our Culture Hub, they saw Matt perform solo or with Centralia. It's always been a pleasure watching you perform and seeing your creativity at work. Where does your love for performance come from?
Oh, wow. I think that I don't know. I don't know where it comes from.
Sure, that's fair.
So if I had to make a guess, I would guess that it comes from my parents. I think it comes from my mom. Specifically, and my dad, but specifically, I think for my mom, because she always, sang in church and, sang in the choir. She's kind of like the star of the church choir. And, every Christmas she would sing, "O Holy Night," and at the midnight mass and stuff like that. So I think it probably comes from her, because I think that, so for example, when I was in high school, so I come from, I have lots of siblings. I have 6 siblings. I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters, and I'm like somewhere right in the middle, kind of like more toward the end. And when I was in high school, I went out for the freshman basketball team. And I was always involved in sports and athletics and stuff like that. And so I went out for the freshman high school basketball team, and I got cut. I was like the last person cut from the team. And when I went home, my mom immediately said, "Why don't you audition for the play?" Like, it was like she was just ready for that. And so I went. It was like the boys and girls were separated. The girls were in another building, and so it would require going to the girls' school to audition, which was really cool,
right?
So I did it. My mom, I auditioned for Hello Dolly, and my mom, she was, she helped me prepare my song and everything, and she really taught me like how to audition, and so that was very cool. That was really the first time. And then when I got, when I was going to college, I really wanted to go for theater. And my dad said, do you really want to go for theater? And I said, yeah, I really do. And then he just fully supported that. Nobody ever in my family, had ever done anything like that before. And my parents didn't go to college. And so I think at that point, they had sent, 4 people off to college. So I think they were kind of like, yeah, we'll roll the dice on this one. This sounds good. And also my brothers and sisters were very supportive of my comedy and stuff.
And were you the only sibling to have like an artistic bent?
No, not at all. Everyone, my older siblings all played musical instruments. Oh, wow. And my sister Mary in particular, she played multiple. She was really good at the piano. She was great at the harp. She played, she played organ for. She got paid. Like there was like a Lutheran church that I think it was Lutheran that she played for, and so that was all through grade school and then high school for my sister Mary. She played. She was playing instruments all the time, and then still to this day, she plays in a quartet, like a classical quartet, but she went to school. She went to school for law, and eventually, practiced law and was a teacher. My brother John played trombone, and he went to a high school called Father Judge in Philadelphia. And during the football games, I remember looking over at my brother John playing trombone and being so excited because he was like in the pep band or whatever, and he would stand up and play like bump 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 bump, and
energy.
Yeah, exactly. And he'd have like a rubber chicken tied on the end of his trombone. And my brother Dave played drums, and my brother Steve played a bunch of woodwind, saxophone.
Really talented family.
Yeah, but then, everybody went on to do really cool, either scientific or related to law or computers or whatever.
Man, that's a I could see, well, you kind of answered my question where you love performance drums. Mm-hmm. You had a very theatrical and like artistic family in their own right.
Yeah, well, we, for the first 11 years of my life, we were in a row home in Philly, and we had an old piano, and I can remember as a kid just kind of playing in the living room and hearing Rhapsody in Blue being played. You know what I mean? So that was kind of like the background music, and different, saxophone and things like that. So I definitely think that had an influence on me.
Wow, very cool. Well, you cite Paul Sills as among others as your influences. Yeah. You made me think of like just like reflection on your past and like that. Like, do you have any specific memory of an experience with him or them, that other influencers that really like shaped your work itself?
Yeah, I think probably more so was probably Shira Piven. Had the biggest and actually sort of continues. Through the pandemic, we've stayed in touch. Me and the other guys in Centralia, we've stayed in touch with Shira over Zoom, and we just do these improvisation. Shira leads it, improvisational writing, and it's really very, very cool. And I felt so grateful to have that outlet, that creative outlet, throughout this, these past couple of years. But in terms of Paul Sills, what happened there was my wife Tracy was doing theater at the Milwaukee Rep.
Yeah.
And they were doing this really great little musical called Lumberjacks in Love.
I know it.
And yeah, do you really?
I was at Milwaukee Rep for a year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So she was doing that and having a great time and just like selling out like gangbusters. So I went out to visit her a couple of times, and I was there for one time for like a 2-week stretch. And Tracy said to me, "Hey, Paul Sills is going to be coming and working on his new story theater. That's legendary."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So she said, "You should get up in the morning." Like their first, day of work was the following day. She's like, "You should get up in the morning and go wait for him in the lobby of the theater. Tell him who you are. Tell him who you've worked with, and see if he'll let you watch or hang out." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So that was like something that scared me to do.
Sure.
In fact, like I love even like to this day, I do this thing where like I try to do, like yesterday I wanted to send an email. I was really scared to send this email to someone to see if they'd let me perform in a venue here in New York City. But I was like, you know what, if I do it, I'm going to go get myself a pumpkin spice latte. So I try to reward myself. Yeah, exactly. So I did. I sent it and got the pumpkin spice latte. So, but anyway, so in Milwaukee, so I did. I got up, I got like shower and everything, and I went to the theater and I waited there. And it was just like Tracy had said it would go. He walked in and I walked up to him. He was very approachable, and I said, "Hi, my name's Matt Higgins. I work with Shira Piven. I've been to the Piven Theater workshop a couple of times, and Byrne and Joyce Piven, but I would love to watch your process." And he said, "Do you want to watch or do you want to play?" And I was like, "What?"
Oh,
I was like, "Holy mackerel." I said, "I would love to play. Absolutely. Yes, exactly. For sure." So he let me come in for, I guess, like 4 or so days in the beginning of the workshop and workshop with them. And I felt really very, very grateful. And I, at that point, I had been doing it for a while, so I felt, I felt confident, I guess, with my abilities and really thrilled. So the thing that struck me about him was he seemed so prepared, which was wild. Like he had stuff written on like index cards and I just, to this day, I can vividly remember that experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's some morals in those stories, I tell you. I mean, go get it, right?
Totally go get it. Yeah. I was working with this kid, a young man, and he, like, with a group, I forget where we were. We were at LaGuardia Community College, and he said something like, "Yeah, I do improvisation." And I was like, "Really? That's really cool. Where do you do it?" And he's like, "I do it I go in every Wednesday and do this free improv night at Artistic New Directions." I was like, "I know Artistic New Directions." And he's like, "Yeah, it's really cool." I was like, "Yeah." I said, "You know what?" I said, "You should go up to Jeffrey's suite and you should tell him that you're an actor and that if he ever had a role for, a guy like you, to give you a call." He's like, "I couldn't do that." And I was like, "Yeah, you actually could do that," because he's really cool, very approachable, and I think that in some way you might be doing him a favor someday by doing that. Sure. And but I can, I saw myself in that kid because that thing of like, "Oh, I couldn't do that," but actually you can do that. You can just go up, just do it.
Worst thing that you can say no, right?
Yeah.
That's
but
really great.
I'll have to remind myself later on that I said this in this podcast to encourage myself to do that.
You can just keep replaying this podcast.
I'll just replay, on a loop.
What did I say? What did I say?
Yeah, exactly. I'll make it a GIF. A GIF?
I think it is GIF, right?
GIF. I think it's GIF.
It is, yeah. Although I've never made one myself, so.
You should.
I should. I don't know which one I'd make it, but I'd make it of your story.
Please do.
There you go.
It's all yours.
Well, speaking of your work, because of the miracles of modern sciences, we can safely gather now for live events, even though we can still Zoom and do things, of course, as well. I think Zoom's here to stay, don't you?
I think Zoom, I agree. Zoom is here to stay.
Yeah. I
Inwood
think, or Microsoft Teams or whatever you want to brand it is.
Whatever. WebEx.
Yeah.
Whatever you're into.
Skype, if you're old school, whatever. I'm curious because it connects us in different ways, and there's different ways of using the mediums. And I know you remember talking to Kevin Scott, and some other guys, Charlie as well, so asking how it's played, like playing over Zoom, playing over the web. And I'm happy to hear your thoughts of playing through a filter, playing live through a filter is a lot different than filming a show and putting it out there. Yeah. So I'm curious how, in your reflection over the past 2 years, your experience of that, and if that was fulfilling to you doing improvisation over the Zoom filter, if you will, and try to connect with people. And part 2-ish of the question is that How, now that you have done some live shows, I'm curious, how does the past 2 years of living on Zoom and the audiences having had to live through Zoom shape the content and inform the show?
Well, back in the before times,
Yeah.
and even now, whenever I would sort of walk around the city and go about my business, and something funny would occur to me or just crack me up or whatever, I would, write it on a piece of paper in my notebook or email it to myself, and then, I acquired all these bits and pieces in different places and stuff. And then in early June of 2020, we all thought once June hits, we'll be back. And then at that point, we were like, oh no, we're not going back. We're not going anywhere.
There was
Yeah. So what I did was I said to myself, I would get up every morning, get up really early, which I love to do, and sit there in the living room with my coffee. And I opened up all those bits and pieces and all those things, all those emails I had sent myself that I never opened or whatever. So I opened everything up and I took out my old stand-up comedy material and I sat down and I said to myself, I had just read Twyla Tharp's The Creative Habit, and she said in the book, she says to give yourself like a really big quota, like just like sort of like an overwhelming quota of something to do and go for it. And then she says, get involved in the process, but you have to have product too. So I was like, okay, that's kind of like a revelation for me. So what I decided from June 16th of 2020 through Labor Day, that's at the end of the summer, right? Yeah, I always confuse that
I
and
know,
Memorial Day.
Me too.
So that through Labor Day, every day I would get up in the morning, I would work and craft one of those bits, and then my daughter Una showed me how to use Instagram Live. And so I set up my Instagram Live, and then I would work on my bit, and then I would go like, okay, here goes. I'm going to do it. And then I would sort of look at it, and then I would put it away, and I would look in the camera, and I would just do, and I called it Matt's Morning Monologues. So I ended up doing like 57 of them. And there were a couple days when I missed, but then the next day I would be sure to do 2. Sometimes if I didn't have anything written, which was rare, I would go out on my run and then just like see a flower or something and just like improvise a little monologue or whatever. Mm-hmm. But so for me, having that access to that, and I have anxiety around social media. I don't really post a whole lot. For some reason, I'm just a little anxious about it. Okay. For some weird thing.
That's okay. You're allowed to be.
Thank you.
Sure.
But that was really it was therapeutic and it was really cool. And so as a result, I ended up with a lot of material, which I've continued to go back and craft. And then what I did, I would do these Zoom, like Matt's work in progress things. And I always called it a work in progress just to keep the bar low for the family and friends that I would invite. So I would invite like neighbors and family and friends to watch these Zoom things. And we'd clear the living room, set up my camera and, put some like holiday lights or whatever around. And I would do these sets of material. And then I would do some improvisation. And after a while, so I did a bunch of those. And after a while, I kind of thought, like, is this kind of like self-indulgent or whatever? And I think it is to some degree. But people would then sort of stop me and like say afterwards, like, thanks a lot for doing this. This is something cool and different to do as we sit here in our living room together, And so for me, like sort of continuing on, I love that idea that I don't have to go anywhere. I can just set up my camera and my light and, do some comedy. And somebody actually might appreciate it outside of myself or whatever. And Una and I did some things too. Like I had this story about when I got hit in the head with a baseball as a kid. So we made it into a 15-minute musical. And she choreographed it and like, we made up some music for it and everything.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know if that answers your question about like.
Well, No, not at
No.
all.
Okay.
No, I'm teasing. It's totally no. It is fine because like you talk about how you're using technology. So I think I gave you a lot to talk about.
But yeah,
So,
but the thing,
the thing is that I think that you're, but the point like you're using technology, using Zoom, Instagram, you're finding ways of being creative through it,
Yeah.
which I think is fantastic. Second part I do want to hear about though is that now that you're doing live shows, like is like the content and everything, like so pandemic heavy.
No. In fact, like in terms of the stuff that I've written, like I feel ready to go ahead and go into comedy clubs and stuff. Like I feel like I have a package ready, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And so I feel that Zoom and Instagram Live, that really helped me craft this stuff. And the cool thing was that I could do it sort of immediately.
Right.
Like I didn't have to get on the train, go downtown and see, like, hey, could you let me do something? Like I just did it myself whenever I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
If I wanted to start the show at 8:15, I would, and so I feel that, like, I don't think that my material deals with the pandemic at all, really.
Good.
Because I feel like, well, also I think, the pandemic's going to go away, and I don't want my material to have much of a shelf
very
life.
dated, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But in terms of improvisation, we, working with Shira over Zoom, and then me and my buddies in Centralia, we did get together, and we do get together, and we rehearse and jam now that we're able to, gather in a room together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty
awesome.
cool.
And how frequently are you guys performing together now?
Well, we did one show like a month and a half ago, so we haven't done much performing. We just did that one, but we have been trying to meet regularly in person, and to rehearse and work on things that we feel like we could use some work on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the thing that for me, the Zoom and all that stuff was really a lifeline throughout the pandemic. I don't know if did you feel the same way? Did you have like a lot of Zoom, like creative connections?
I mean, I think we used it in a good way through Inwood Artworks. Like, for instance, when we announced our filmmaker fund, we couldn't have like a party to celebrate the filmmakers. So I got them all on Zoom. We did like a webinar where I said, hey, everybody, meet all the filmmakers, and they could talk about their projects. And so that was really cool. And then when we did our, like at the end of the year, we might do it again this year. For the podcast, we have the Live and Local, where we interview local musicians and have them play live. And so we said, hey, here's a snippet of some of the musicians we had on, which was cool. So I think it connected people in that way. But as far as like working in a working place, like I think it helped in many ways. Like you would see cousins and things like that, and family members who weren't aware they could have access to these things, and so you end up speaking to people you haven't spoke to in years.
Yeah,
which I thought that was really cool.
Very cool.
And so now I think that's why I feel like Zoom is here / whatever you want to call it, is here to stay because it does bring connectivity into your life more. But I do feel same breath. I'll say like I still prefer nothing beats having a pumpkin latte with you or whatever, and hanging out and just shooting the breeze.
Yeah, nothing beats the sound of cellophane wrapper in the theater.
Right.
During.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, do you go out and see a lot of stuff now that the world has opened up more? Do you go out and see stuff more?
Oh, I don't know. Yes, definitely more than when we were completely locked down, for sure.
Yeah.
But yes, we've gone out to see some things, and I've gone to see some stand up, and Una, my daughter's gone to see concerts, and my other daughter Kirsten just went to see The Lion King, and so yeah. What's interesting is that, like, talking about like what you're doing right here with this interview and stuff like that. One thing that you should know is that how validating it is to be asked to do this. Like, for me, it really means a lot, and I'm really grateful because it's, sometimes you, like as an artist, speaking for me personally, sometimes you need that, like, that little, like somebody saying to, like someone seeing you and saying like, hey, what you do is worthy of being on, my podcast or whatever. And so so it's kind of big for me, and I really appreciate it.
We're really big in Inwood,
Yeah.
I tell you.
The other day I was doing an
thank you.
improv workshop, and this participant said to me like, you're a really good storyteller. And it blew me away. And I thanked this person. And then I felt compelled to go back up and say, look, like, you really don't know. Like, that meant a lot to me.
Man.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, again, maybe it's just me personally, but like, I really do, like, these little things really do make an impact. And I think that you should know that, that what you're doing really resonates more than you think, probably.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Well, as I said before, you're a creative force, and people, like I said, going back to kind of what I said to you earlier, it's like people have seen you in so many different Inwood Artworks incarnations throughout the years, and that, we believe in people. And I always ask myself, like, why we do these podcasts, because this isn't something like, we're always going to do podcasts because that's what we do. It's like, I'm always reevaluating, going like, does anybody care? Does anybody listen to it? And it's like, well, why do we do these? And I do feel an aspect of it is for artists, like it is for the artist, but it's also for people who are genuinely interested in learning new things. I always kind of have there's always kind of like an educational aspect to it, I think, in some way, because we always do end up talking about some kind of process or people's process, and what makes them inform what they do in different ways, which I think is valuable no matter which genre you may be either working in or admiring. And so I feel it is helpful. I hope it's helpful.
Totally
and then
is.
maybe entertaining as well. So
Yeah.
if we achieve the third, so be it. But we're not promising that one.
I love that you use what you have. So like, you've got this room and you're like, when I walk in, actually it sounds really good. And it's, we've got light coming in and all this other stuff. And I love, like, for example, your back porch show. I just think that's great. I just love the vibe of it. And it's just wonderful, right? I mean, it's just kind of perfect.
Yeah.
And I love doing things that when I'm doing them, I'm like, oh, this is legendary. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like, I can tell people I'm performing on a back porch.
Yeah.
You might be on Broadway, mister, but I'm on a back porch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, when you do teach people, and when you do talk to people, and you kind of mentioned it earlier with your advice to the young man, what advice do you give to someone who'd like to try improv, and who not just about putting themselves forward and getting in front of people, but like for someone who or stand-up comedy or whichever way they want to express themselves in performance, what advice because you do teach improv, and so I just feel like it'd be really great for people to hear from you who may or may not have experience about how to put themselves forward.
Well, in terms of, I guess I'll start with stand-up comedy. So I started doing it, when I was in college, and then I got away from it, and I did sort of different variations of it. And one thing that I noticed is that the people who are very successful in stand-up comedy, I'll take like Jim Gaffigan, for example. The one thing I noticed is that they're really cool people, and also when I would take note that when in the clubs and stuff like that, I would always notice like he would drift off onto a corner and take out his material and look at it. So I think preparation is key. I think that jotting things down, I think that's really clutch, and finding sort of like your own rhythm in doing that. But and then presenting it and all that. But I think the biggest thing in terms of stand-up comedy over the long term, the thing that I've noticed, the thing that the people that are successful never got off the bus. They just stayed on the bus. Everyone else is going to get off the bus. But if you stay on it, you're going to get better. Just by process of elimination, you're going to start to acquire, you'll go through like 25 jokes that don't work, but then you're going to have a keeper. Then you're just going to keep on building those keepers. Before you know it, I mean, really, how hard is it to compile 60 or 45 minutes? I don't think it's that hard. You know what I mean? Like if you sort of have a knack for it, but you have to stay with it, and you have to stay with it. Take care of yourself. Don't get wasted all the time. You know what I mean? And stay with it. Stay out there. Don't bad talk people or anything like that. Keep your good rep.
Relationships are key.
Totally. And don't get off the bus. Just don't quit. If you want to make it, don't quit.
Yeah, I can't remember. Maybe it was Seinfeld or somebody else said, like, how did you get this gig? He's like, well, people kept on getting out of line in front of me.
Right.
That kind of that same analogy, works. And yeah, just don't cut the bus, and keep staying on there. And it's interesting you say that, because I had a different conversation with someone else recently on a podcast or something along those lines about the people, the company you keep, which is kind of goes with what you're saying too. Don't go wasted. Don't do the wrong things. Is that when you're and you can start at any age, so it's not age is not a factor.
Yeah.
But I will say though, like if you talk about don't get off the bus, which it implies that you've dedicated yourself to doing things consistently for a period of time. And it's interesting when you are at a certain period of time in your career, however relative that is to your career, the company that is around you, and you see the people who are, if it will take stand-up comedy in this particular instance, saying like the people who are moving forward in different directions and have branched out, and you did something maybe with them 10 years ago, and they're in a totally different place, which isn't neither, we'll say, better or worse for whatever, but they're still here, which
Right.
that's the impressive thing, I think. The fact that you're still there. It's because success is relative. It's in the eye of the beholder, however, whatever is like the bar to reach. That's for everyone else for you to decide, and for everyone else to admire, I guess. But to me, that's the most wonderful thing, is to see your peers with you still, and then you can only think reflectively they're seeing you back.
Yeah.
And so that's
totally.
that should be joyful, I think.
Yeah. I think that I think that joyful is a great word, because I think that's essential. You definitely have ups and downs and all that.
Sure.
But it should be like when you should have the feeling, I think, of play when you get onto the stage. And I feel that when I to use my friend Josh Livright's word, when you drop into it, when you feel yourself drop in, and he's really, Josh is, we have a very close friendship, and he directed and co-produced the Improviser movie that I did, and he really, he made a really big impact on me. Like, really we would meet in Bread and Yoga on Sunday nights, and we would just sort of sit there, he and I, and he would sort of sit there, and I would get up and improvise, and it was crazy. It was really cool and fun. And again, it's kind of like the back porch. It's just like, what a beautiful experience to be sitting in a room with my friend in a yoga studio on a Sunday night at 11 o'clock at night. And, the whole world's doing their thing, but We're doing this. And he, really sort of talked about just dropping into the play. And I find that when I'm teaching improvisation, I feel the same way. I feel like I'm really in my comfort zone in a good way. And you talked about people wanting to get into improvisation, and that I always tell people, I want you to do this for the rest of your life. So I would never, it's just it's all about play. It's all about being able to drop into play and let everything else go, and just sort of return to your childhood, as an adult, and play, and just have fun. And so I would encourage people to take an improv class just to sort of get some tools and to be around, like-minded people who want to play.
And yes, and that'll help inform them.
Yeah. Aaron, I have a running list of people in my head, in my life, who are willing to play. My super, who he has since retired, but my super Osvaldo, he was somebody who would play with me anytime. And so he would always come to see our Up Theater productions, and he came to see the one where, so I was playing a character who didn't have much money, but wanted to send his kid a James Bosley play called Broad Channel, and he wants to send his kid away to Sleepaway College, and the kid's like stealing cars and stuff like that. So he has this work of art that he wants to sell, and they don't have anything, but they have this. And so as it turns out, it's like a piece of stolen Nazi art that his father got during World War II, just sort of happened upon, like traded for cigarettes or something like that as a GI. And anyway, so, and then, a bunch of problems happen. But with my N.K. Kama Joseph, Kirby's play, so my super, like I told him, I'm like, Osvaldo, I'm going to sell this. We have a mural in our lobby. I'm like, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to put it on eBay. I'm going to need your help. And he's like, he plays right along. He's like, you're crazy, Higgins. You're crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. I'm going to cut you in, man. I'm going to cut you in. And and then there's a guy at the local coffee shop who plays also. I said to him one time, he gave me my coffee, and I said, thanks a lot. And he goes, have a great day. And I said, oh, I will. Like that. And then he goes, no, you won't. Like that. And then I was like, what? Another person from my playlist?
That's really awesome.
So yeah, then I went outside and I was like in the mirror, or the window, trying to like play with people, and he was looking at me like, nope, you're not gonna. It's not gonna. Yeah. Happen. So
that's so much. But that's great. And then,
yeah.
Well, first off, great advice. Thank you for offering that to people. But secondly, I think it's like it informs your life, like you're just talking about. It's like the playing carries on, and it becomes who you are, or part of who you are. Anyway. And I think it's really wonderful.
Yeah, I think that at a certain point, most people sort of lose that play, and I think that it's really healthy. I also think, honestly, I think it's a bit subversive as well to play, and during. So many things happened over the past 2 years with the George Floyd murder, all kinds of things, and I really would think to myself, like, how can I help? What can I do? And I really do feel that if I can just in some small way, I'll go to protests, and I have. Rarely, on occasion, when I'm available and I can or whatever. But I also do think that, like, on a day-to-day basis, like, if we can just like continue to play and not, fight depression and sadness and all that sort of thing, and find joy, I think it infuses us with energy. And
absolutely,
don't you think?
I do. I really do. I feel. I may not be on your list, but I tell you what.
You're on it. You're on a different list.
You just have to say that.
You're on a different list.
Oh, gosh, I don't know what that list is.
Well.
But anyway, my point is, like, first off, I'm just so happy you said that, because that's kind of like tying together. You talked about your family earlier. Like, my family was very much like that. Mm-hmm. Like, it was like living on a sitcom 24 hours a day in my house, like between like the banter, the witty banter, sending up, and between my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister, And so I learned that sense of play from with them and from them. And I mean, and when we're on the phone or whatever, we don't Zoom in our family, but we do the phone calls, whatever. And it's it's sharp, and it's like your barista conversation. It's like, how was your day? Oh, well, it's really great. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You're just like, what? Things like that, just ribbing and undercutting, whatever. And I love the fact that you have an inventory of people, and I think like I couldn't agree more with you to have a little more fun out there in the world, and maintaining that little bit of innocence, I guess, in some ways too, and maybe not take things so seriously, but yet be respectful, I guess, in some ways when you can, and know your boundary lines, I guess we'll say that. But I couldn't agree more.
Good, clean fun.
Good, clean fun.
Good, clean
That's
fun.
right.
Yeah. I know that I know from, looking at you're a proud uncle. Right?
Oh yeah. I mean, those are my surrogate kids for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they're out there. I mean, it's funny. Inwood Artworks is 2 full-time jobs. And so it's usually doing all that. So occasionally I'll throw something out on my personal feed, and it'll usually, doting on the cool kids that they
totally.
are. But that's
fishing.
Right. What's that?
Fishing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, whatever.
And tomorrow, I don't know if you know this or not, I'm sure you do, that the Bengals, are you Cincinnati Bengals?
Absolutely.
They play the Chargers tomorrow. I don't know if you know that.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure
I do know. I did know that. I forgot, but I do. Well, here's the thing. It's like living in New York. I mean, I'm still a Cincinnati guy at heart, but like, Reds and Bengals, but it's like you never get to watch them because, and you're a Philly guy. So at least you have some kind of market here, but you probably don't get to watch them as much either, or the Phillies or the Eagles or whatever. And so you kind of lose, like, it used to be, when we were younger, like you'd actually get a paper and you'd look for the box score and you'd try to see, they got how many yards they rushed and caught. And you just lose sight. But yes, the Bengals have done pretty well this season so far. I knock on whatever wood here I have. Yeah. And it's fun. But and so we cheer them on when we can, but yet Cincinnati has had so many lean years, we don't get our hopes too high.
No, don't. I don't know if you know this or not, but Tracy is a diehard Mets fan. So I have become a Mets fan as well because of Tracy, and I would love to do a show with you at Inwood Artworks. Tracy has a character she calls Sheila, and so Tracy knows everything about the Mets. Like I'm telling, like diehard, and she did a lot of growing up in Astoria. Sure. Spent summers in Astoria and lots of other times. But so she's Sheila, and I'm her husband, Hammerhead, and we're just these two like diehard, kind of, really sort of like trying to make ends meet people. Regular people she's just like, come on, this really diehard. Like you're saying, you can never get your hopes too high with teams like that.
Well, with the Mets particularly, you can't get your hopes too high. But
no,
I'm with you. I like the Mets as well. Having moved to New York, I swear to God, I thought when I moved to New York I'd become a Yankees fan, but it wasn't the case. I became more of a Mets fan.
What is that about? Why not?
I don't know. Well,
Me either.
It's more weird for us too because like I grew up. Don Mattingly was like my favorite baseball player. Yeah. He was from Evansville, Indiana, and he played for the Yankees. And it was a big deal. And then so I idolized him, all his baseball cards and things like that. And 86 Mets happened too, and like I liked Dwight Gooden and Darryl Strawberry and Keith Hernandez and whoever else was on the team at the time. So I liked the Mets too, but like the Yankees just like it was weird. Like, but the Yankees never won anything like in the 80s and like 70s and really late 70s, early to 80s and 90s. And then when Mattingly retired, Jeter came on the team and they just won everything. Yeah. They just won everything, and it became like, for the Yankees. And it was like, but then they just kept winning everything and everything, and it became no fun. Yeah. I think in some ways. And then they had like the payroll, like just like we can buy 2 of your teams and put them on our team kind of thing. And I think that to me kind of soured me a little bit over the years. And then I forgot about it and then came here. I was like, the Mets, they're kind of fun. Well, first off, we'd love to have you and Tracy perform your bit at something like that. I just
sort of put the pressure on you.
We'll have to figure out when we can do that. Hopefully we'll have a new pop-up or a venue of some kind to do that, or the back porch for that matter.
You know, I don't know if you know, I don't know if you've ever met my daughter Kirsten. She's an amazing improviser as well. So maybe we'll do the whole family.
Bring them on. Bring Una. Bring everybody.
I'll be like the really whatever sort of like
the Swiss Family Higgins or something like that.
Swiss Family Higgins, exactly. Yeah. You know what's weird? Like back to sports for a second.
Yeah.
So growing up in Philly, there was a kid. So now this is at the point when we moved out to Warminster, which is just right outside of Philly. There was a kid who like was a diehard Cowboys fan, and strange. And like I could never figure that out. I don't mind like Cowboys fans. Like if you like moved to Philly, so you weren't born and raised there, then that's fine. But like I couldn't understand like how could you be a Cowboys fan? And I think that people just want, and I think it's the same thing. Tell me what you think of this theory. So I think it's even with like the Yankees. I think that people, it's like psychological capital. Like they just want to be associated with a winner. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why people are kind of like, don't get me wrong. I respect the United States of America just like anybody else. But people are kind of like USA.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, they want to be part of the big team.
Associated with the winner.
So it's a reflection of themselves. Like you said, yeah,
true.
Yeah,
and hey, man, whatever you need to do.
You don't hear anybody ever saying, I really love. I mean, it'd be great to be a Baltimore Oriole.
Yeah,
like no one ever says that. I like the Baltimore Orioles.
You just said it.
Actually, I like the Baltimore Orioles. I was a big Cal Ripken fan, and so you my Baltimore friends out there, I'm with you. Actually, I have nothing against. And actually, Camden Yards may be one of the prettiest parks I've ever been to.
Philadelphia Field, Citizens Bank.
Very nice, very nice. But I just like Camden Yards when it was built, they're like all like it was a pretty park. But my point is like Baltimore's been bad so many years. Like it's not like they're saying, oh, they don't have like the pedigree, the Yankees or Cowboys versus like the Detroit Lions, for instance.
Oh man!
And Detroit Lions are really sucking air right now.
Well, I wrote
and I like Detroit too. I have family up there, but it's rough, right?
Totally. I saw actually. Side note. I saw
this podcast is getting deep.
I saw an Oriole. I was out for a run. First of all, for people who don't know Inwood, it's a beautiful place. It's really hard sometimes. It's Manhattan, but it's really beautiful and
lots of foliage.
Yeah, exactly. The other day, or not the other day, like a couple months ago, I saw an Oriole. Like I'd never seen one before. Beautiful bird.
Yeah. Yeah, the bird watching happens here a lot. They do bird watchers go out in the forests and.
I watch the bird watchers. I'm a bird watcher.
That should be. I think that'd be great if you like started like a Facebook group called the Inwood Bird Watcher Watchers.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you post pictures of the people you see watching birds.
Yeah, I just
that
admire
should be your social media like obsession.
That's what it's going to be. And admire their binoculars.
Instagram page. Yes.
Yeah, wow, look at his binocular.
Yeah. You start writing down like about their gear. Did you see Sally wearing the X4-5 binoculars?
Yeah. That guy's not
Sony's. They're Sony's or whatever. I don't know. I'm making this all up.
No. But I think you're probably right. They probably are Sony's.
They probably are. But getting back to something before we sign off, and because we can't keep you here all day, unfortunately. So what's going on with What If series and the Improviser? Are there going to be more What Ifs? Because we had Road Rage as part of the film festival, and we put up the other What If ones as part of our Short Film Fridays this past year during the pandemic for the film festival. And then the Improviser, I know you had the long version of it going on. Do you have plans for either expanding on the What If series and filming more and spreading the love? And also want to hear about what's going on with the Improviser.
Well, we don't have any current plans for What If, but that doesn't mean something couldn't happen. Yeah. Actually, I'm now part of the Xena Group Theater with Josh Liveright.
Oh, great.
So that's his thing, and then he asked me to be on the board. So I feel really.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
He didn't ask me.
Well, I think he just needed a warm body.
I'm just teasing.
No,
that's not true at all.
No, but so I'm hopeful that once all this stuff sort of clears more, that we'll be able to do more stuff like that. I love working with Victor Verhage. He's just absolutely hysterical.
He's a great guy.
And really funny.
Very talented.
Yeah. And in terms of the improviser, well, no, nothing's really, I mean, I put it up on YouTube. We submitted it to film festivals and things like that. But one thing that I feel like that was part of a process. So I feel that I would love to be able to. So, for example, I'd love to have a Netflix series of doing that kind of a thing, or some kind, Hulu or whatever. I don't know, one of those, Amazon.
You don't have to pick a channel; they'll pick.
No,
you.
I feel like I feel compelled to pick a channel right here, right now.
All right, get locked into it.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be UHF.
Oh man,
I want to go back
Weird Al's going to produce your film.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved that movie.
Yeah. What is it?
UHF is actually a movie.
Oh, really?
By Weird Al Yankovic, actually.
Really?
Yeah, but obviously you're actually referring to the UHF dial.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would love to do a series of those kinds of things. I also would love to continue to hybrid improvisation into my stand-up and find some sort of like sweet spot or whatever.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah.
And is that part of your plans for 2022? Like, do you have any concrete ones?
I do have like concrete goals, like things I want to achieve. Yeah. Oh man, should I put it out there in the universe?
Yeah, man.
I should totally put it out there in the universe. Get ready, Ken. Here it comes. I would love to have like a Comedy Central, Netflix, HBO special, like a 45-minute thing. That's a dream of mine to do that, and I would love to do that soon. I'd love to do that in 2020. I'd love to have it done by September 1st of 2022.
Well,
I put it in the
Netflix,
universe.
HBO, Hulu, Amazon, if you're out there, you have your instructions. Go find this man and hire him and let him do his show.
Do you do that? Do you put things out? Do you say, like, I'm going to do this in 2022?
That's interesting. No one ever, here's the thing. No one ever asks me that kind of stuff. It's really funny. Like, I don't on myself do it, but I was telling Ken, our technical director, earlier today, that Matt was referencing earlier, about like what we as and what Artworks were trying to, kind of. There's the things that we want to do and we know that we can't. And then there's the things we know we can do, given like, because we're so beholden to like restrictions of space and things like that to make things organized to work. And it's less about saying like, I want X amount of like a whatever. Like we bring a specific project to premonition. I'm saying like, wish we got a grant of some kind or something like that. It's like we're seeing like it's weird. It's like we should do more what you're doing, I think, in many ways of saying, yeah, we'd like to do that, but we're looking at like the finances going, well, we can't afford these things. Because presenting and producing is just because we're the ones having to present it and produce it. But I think what you're doing is great, and I think all artists should do it. And we do have aspirations of saying, I think there's like the box for us is a little more practical going, this is what we want to do, this is what we can do, this is what we aspire to do, and if we get X amount of dollars, we can do this. And can we do it next year? No, but I bet we can do it next year after that. So there's things like that we've always wanted to do, first thing what Artworks goes, like when I created it, I've always wanted to do like the first like a full professional play up here in northern Manhattan, and a musical or whatever, opera, we call it whatever you want to, depending on the subject matter. And we're also very venue dependent here as well. Yeah. And so there's a lot of things that factor into it, but it's great to keep putting it out there and aspiring to do that. It's just the most expensive thing to do out of everything we do. Because it's like, okay, the film festivals and the podcasts, and they all cost money to produce and present. The outdoor films, there's everything costs, but to do a play is incredibly labor intensive, and it's definitely the most expensive possible thing.
What if you did
we can
it
do, unless
here?
outside of a feature film?
But what if you did it like just with no lights, no anything, just kind of like right here?
Well, I think your site specific stuff is definitely there's really wonderful ways of doing that. And I think, we can have and I think it's because of the relationships we've made, we could do small things like you could do Virginia Woolf in here.
Yeah,
you could
absolutely.
You could do all sorts of really Zoo Story or The Dutchman or a new play with by a new local writer. And I think what we'd love to do again is short form stuff, like the film festival is a short. Like people love the shorts we do, and like the What If series you guys have. I think bringing in like commissioning local writers to do like a 10-minute play festival would be awesome, and do it locally. I think that to us I think is like kind of the next step. What I think we're going to do, theater wise, that makes sense to us. Because it's on mission for us, and have people like you to do, bring in your Mets one act play.
Well, Kevin Scott used to produce a series called way down on 23rd Street, I think it was Gotham Improv. He called it Midnights, and it was like a 10-minute like every Saturday. I think I'm not sure if he would like give a theme for the week, and then people would kind of like write a play, and it had to be less than 10 minutes.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
That's very cool. Yeah, and a great writing exercise and creative exercise people too.
Yeah,
particularly if you have the same group of writers or have writers you trust to bring in. But also, it's great meeting new people as well.
Yeah.
Well, that seems like a great project for all of us in 2022, and I see no reason why you can't have your show.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, by you, like, it was kind of scary to like put that out there. Do you know what I mean? Like, like to say that and to sort of put it out there. Now I go like, oh God, now everyone knows, and the people are gonna,
That's okay. We can edit out in post-production.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Of course we won't, because I think it's great that you put it out there. Or it'd be really great that we just edit out what you said or bleep it, and then no one knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What did you say you wanted to do again?
Una has this great joke, and she got it from her friends. But I'll say it to you. Did you like my gaslighting joke?
What gaslighting joke?
I told it to you. Get it?
Yes.
I think she does it better though.
It's okay. We got it.
What?
We got it.
We got what? What are you talking about? Oh, I gaslighted you again.
Oh. Man. This is what it's like being the host with not the most.
Yeah.
Wah, wah. Well, Matt, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for coming on Inwood Artworks on Air. So before we say adieu, where can people go to find out all about your work, even though maybe you won't be on because you don't do a lot of social media?
Yeah. I guess
your website, maybe?
Yeah. I've got my website that I have to see. This is great because now I might have to go back and look at it. I haven't updated it in a very long time. So so it's matthigginswebsite.com. And then there's also Matt Higgins NYC, my Instagram handle. And I think you can find me on Facebook as well.
There you go. Netflix, go find him there.
Please do,
and all the rest of you listeners as well. Love for you to go out and support Matt. He deserves it. And if you see him around, feel free to play with him.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You bet, buddy. Well, thanks to Matt Higgins for joining us on this Artist Spotlight episode of Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home here in northern Manhattan. If you have a moment, please show us some love right now and go rate this podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. Many thanks to the Church of Good Shepherd here at Inwood NYC for hosting us, and to HeightsHeights.com for local uptown promotional support. Be sure to follow us on social media at Inwood Artworks to keep up with all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmmakers Al Fresco, pop-up art galleries, live performances, and so much more. You can also support this program and all our free programs at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate. This program is sponsored in part by public funds of the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with City Council. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Artworks On Air.